Howdy folks, and welcome to the Saltmine Discord Q&A for October. Wow, time is flying. Where did 2025 go? Of course, if you couldn't make it to the live Q&A on Discord on Sunday, then you're listening to this as Monday's episode of Meals with Jingles. So, hope you had a good weekend. Now forget it, because it's Monday. As usual, we generally crack straight on with the questions posed by the people who turned up. Nice to see you all, those of you who are here live. Hope you're going to enjoy it. And these are the guys that have posted the questions that I'm going to be answering today. Before we crack on with that, though, it's time for a quick word from our sponsor. I'm sure we're all aware that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of data broker firms out there with expensive and extensive personal information databases holding your details, which they trade on a daily basis. Information which, if it were to fall in the wrong hands, could, for example, be used by criminals to open credit accounts in your name, or file tax returns in your name, or commit crimes in your name. The kind of activities which could take months or possibly even years to repair the financial and reputational damage. Now, Incogni has always gone after these big data brokers on your behalf, and you can get yourself 60% off an exclusive Incogni plan by heading over to incogni.com/jingles and using code JINGLES at checkout. But what Incogni are now offering, under their Unlimited and Family Unlimited plans, is a personal data removal service. If you happen to know, for example, of a People Search website, just as one example, or any particular website that has your personal information, and you'd rather they didn't, simply copy the URL into Incogni, and one of their data protection agents will take care of everything else for you. New feature available under the Unlimited and Family Unlimited plans. And again, 60% exclusive discount by heading over to incogni.com/jingles and using code JINGLES at checkout, and take your personal information off the market. So, with that out of the way, it has been there's been some fairly significant news as far as PC gaming is concerned. Slightly more console gaming. We're talking about Xbox, of course, and the whole Xbox Game Pass debacle, which is it's like Microsoft have just decided they don't want to sell. They just don't want to make money from Xbox. In 2025, they've charged £800 for an Xbox console. They want to charge $1,000 They want to charge $1,000 for an Xbox handheld. It's more than a PS5 Pro. Holy shit! And now they put the price of the top tier of the Xbox Game Pass up by 50%, at least 50%. In some places like Brazil, it's up by 100%. Why? Good question. And they're justifying it by saying, but you get so much more value, because they're throwing in the Ubisoft Legacy collection. So all those 10-year-old Ubisoft games, which to be fair are the only good Ubisoft games, anything made in the last 10 years, has been kind of shit. But apparently this justifies them bumping the price up by 50%. Oh, and by the way, if you got Xbox Game Pass on PC, you get nothing. They've just increased the price. So it's like their servers collapsed under the weight of people cancelling their Xbox Game Pass subscriptions over the week prior. It's like somebody at Microsoft had just decided we just don't want to make money anymore. Anyway, amusing though that is, let's crack on with the questions. So, our first question. Grumps. Cheat hasn't got his in ahead. Grumper Salty, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is the actual server admin, so he gets to cheat. He says, when are you going to join us on Elite Dangerous? I promise I won't kidnap you. Yeah, the last time in fact, it literally was the last time I was in Elite Dangerous. I jumped on board his fleet carrier, and he took me to the arse end of the galaxy. Like the outer spiral rim. Honestly, Elite is just one of those games that requires such an investment of time. I mean, we're not talking EVE Online levels of investment of time, but it's fairly significant. I just don't have the time for it. I might pop on occasion. I do have the game installed, I do keep it up to date, and I might pop on occasionally, as long as you promise not to take me a million light years to the other end of the galaxy again, and then leave me. But yeah, I'm certainly not going to make a habit of playing Elite anymore. I just don't have the time for it. But I may pop in every now and then. The next question comes from Yamatopter. He says, scenario. Thanks to your contributions to tank-based online entertainment, the folks of the Girls and Panzer project have decided to honour you by creating a Girls and Panzer character based on you. She will be named Paula Charlton and be a foreign exchange student at St. Gloriana's. Commanding a Tog 2. As you know, all St. G characters have T-based nicknames. What T would your character have as a nickname? God, I don't know the names of any T's. I mean, there's Earl Grey, which everybody knows because they watched Star Trek. Oh, I suppose they're probably like... What was the tea that they sell at the NAFI? Yes, yeah, the NAFI do. Actually, I think it's just repackaged and rebranded Yorkshire breakfast tea. But the NAFI, the Navy Army Air Force Institute, the shopkeepers who serve the military, do actually have their own version packaged NAFI tea. So it would have to be something to do with that. Our next question. It's actually not bad. I don't drink tea. As a rule, I much prefer coffee. Yeah, I know. Heresy. But when I did drink tea, it was generally the NAFI's tea because it was just, inoffensive. It was all right. Anyway, next question comes from Baranakatsuki. He says, "Good morning, Jingles. Greetings from Eindhoven." Oh, been to Eindhoven. Well, I've been through it. It was one of the, when a couple of years back when my friend Roy and I did our Hell's Highway tour, we were kind of running short of time. We planned to stop in Eindhoven to look at the bridges there from Operation Market Garden, but we were running late because we'd spent so much time looking at the roadside cemeteries up along Hell's Highway that we weren't going to make it to Nijmegen in time, so we basically just drove through Eindhoven. It looked like a nice town though, but I do regret that we didn't have time to stop. Anyway, he says, if you had to choose a 3-man squad to do missions or quests in a medieval game setting, which of the following would you choose and why, and which would you never choose and why? So, this is good. This is a really good choice, actually. So he's got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cassandra from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Henry from Kingdom Come Deliverance, Kay Vess from Star Wars Outlaws, V/Johnny Silverhand from Cyberpunk, Arthur from Red Dead Redemption 2, or Hans Capon, the so-called brains of the operation. I like this question. I don't have to think too hard about it. I would absolutely choose Cassandra from Assassin's Creed Odyssey because she just gets shit done. Arthur from Red Dead Redemption 2 because he just gets shit done, and Henry from Kingdom Come Deliverance because, say it with me, he just gets shit done. I would absolutely never choose Kay Vess from Star Wars Outlaws, Hans Capon from from Kingdom Come Deliverance, or Johnny Silverhand, no, from Cyberpunk, because they would fuck everything up and then refuse to take any responsibility and just blame everybody else, because that's just what they do. That's like, Kay Vess kind of had a character arc in Star Wars Outlaws, but I detested her as a character from the very start of the game. And I was probably about a quarter of the way through before I started not absolutely hating her. When she started to accept a bit of responsibility for all of her screw-ups. So, she's a pretty good example of a character that you hate at the start. And do come to actually like. Although, I think they may have possibly overdone it a bit, because one of the many reasons why a lot of people just didn't like Star Wars Outlaws was because the main character was so completely unlikable. So I think a lot of people probably stopped playing before we got to the point where they actually started to give us some time. But anyway, yeah, it would be Cassandra, Henry, and Arthur, and definitely not Kay Vess, Johnny Silverhand, or Hans Capon, because they're shit. Johnny Silverhand wasn't shit. It's just he had his own agenda and he didn't care what you wanted. He would tell you, right, we're going in to do this thing, and that was all just bullshit to get you to go so he could do what he wanted to do. So you just couldn't trust Johnny, but you could trust Kay and Hans to screw it up. So no, I would never choose any of those three. Anyway, next question from Godpain. Hi, almighty Overlord. After a long time, I want to fly among the stars again in Elite, but my joystick and old Logitech now has so much stick drift that I need to set the dead zone to about 75% to cancel it out. Needless to say, I'm looking for a thruster and stick combo to retire my old one. Do you or any of your high-ranked minions have a recommendation? Also, because it will never stop being funny. Are you sure you record? Yes, I'm recording. Or, well, if I'm not, I'm going to look really stupid when our time is up. But I let me just check. Yes, I am recording. And yes, the microphone is on. Okay, good. This is a good one for... if you're listening to this as Monday's Mingles with Jingles, and you've got a recommendation for a joystick and throttle combination, please do post it in the comments. because I haven't actually used my joystick, throttle, or flight yoke since I moved in here. They're all in storage. So, I mean, the stuff I use I wouldn't recommend because it's stupidly expensive. I bought it all to play Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. Who was it by? Honeycomb Aeronautical. Very, very good, but not stupidly expensive, but at the very high end of consumer electronic expensive. And I wouldn't recommend those, but there was a thing that I used for ages. I can't remember who made it. It was like a PlayStation joystick and throttle combination, but it had a switch where you could switch it to PC, and you could use it on PC as well. And you could get it for like $40, and it had like the throttle on the left side, the joystick, and it was a reasonable. It was made of plastic because it was only like $40, but it was actually pretty good. And you can actually detach the throttle. I can't remember what it was called. A quick Google and you should be able to find it. But you can actually, they would lock together, or you could detach the throttle and have it separate from the joystick. And it was just, it had all the buttons that you needed. I used to play Elite with it. And then I just went back to using the mouse because I suck at using. It turns out I really suck at using a joystick in any kind of flight sim. But yeah, it was really, really useful for stuff like Microsoft Flight Sim. So I'm sorry I can't remember the name of it. But if you do a search on Amazon for a joystick and throttle combo, it's probably going to be one of the top things that pops up. Because it's just so popular. And I can't even remember who made it. I think it might have been Logitech, actually. But yeah, Logitech, good brand. I use Logitech mice. I use a Logitech keyboard. I've got Logitech speakers. They do good stuff. Sadly, they've never sponsored me. But you usually ain't going to go too far wrong sticking with Logitech. So yeah, there we go. And again, if you listen to this as Monday's Mingles with Jingles and you've got a good recommendation that isn't going to break the bank for Godpain here, then please feel free to leave it in there as a comment. Next question from, oh my god. So just for put this in a bit of context. When the mods open up the questions channels, they do say try to keep your questions short so Jingles can answer as many as possible. And then Tank 50 US writes a novel every time. So here's this month's novel from Tank 50 US. Greetings, Jingles. An odd question tonight. Sorry it's long. Yeah, you noticed that, did you? But I'm asking if you could help me spread the word about a book series that I recently put live. Oh, okay. It's called Vengeance, Legends of the Frontier. The first 2 books are available right now, with the third in the process of final edits. The basic story premise is that the Yellowstone Park is blown. Oh yeah, the super volcano under Yellowstone. Billions have been killed, but just before it went, a portal to an alternate Earth was discovered. I've read this. Hang on a minute. A portal to an alternate Earth was discovered, and now colonization is underway. Okay, I haven't read this, but I read something very, very similar. A bunch of scientists conducting an experiment, and while they're in this portal on an alternate version of Earth, Yellowstone blows up. So yeah, can't keep a good idea now, I suppose. Can't remember who wrote it, but yeah, definitely wasn't Tank 50 US because it's slightly different. At first, to feed the billions back on old Earth, but eventually because people went screw this and they moved there as the spots opened up to go on the alternate Earth. So skipping to, here we go. For those interested, he's got an Amazon link for anybody who wants to, because the first 2 books are available with the third and final edit. So I'll stick that in the description, maybe as a pinned comment. And he says 2 things. Yes, the covers are made by AI. They're placeholders until a friend of his completes the proper covers. There's nothing wrong with having an AI cover. It's a very cost-effective way of getting your stuff looking professional for when that you self-publish on Amazon. And second, if anyone's in Chicago the first weekend of December, he's reselling physical copies at Midwest Fur Fest. 2 of the characters in the book are Anthro Dragons, and he'll be signing any physical copies. So there we go. That's Welcome to the Frontier, When Worlds Collide, with the third in the series, The War for the Frontier, in the process of final edits. Available on Amazon Kindle and apparently also physical copies. Next question from Hideki Motosuwa. He says, ahoy old man, before the question, the next Skulls and Panzer movie just did recording a few weeks ago. How did I miss that? And the announcement for that one might pop up in the next few months, so you might mark that one on the radar. Given the situation in the UK, What if the clowns escalate to the point you have no choice but to move to another country? Do you have any candidates? Not just country, but specific city, province, place. Honestly, this shit's global. I mean, you know, I don't want to start talking about politics in Mingles with Jingles, but the rest of the world isn't that much better. Everywhere's got its problems. Although, I have to admit, I did always fancy the idea of moving to Canada. But Canada's got its own issues, you know. It's just, I think their accent's funny. And they're nice people. It's like, I always say about Canada, because if you look at like other countries that were colonies, they usually got their independence by, you know, bloody revolution and armed conflict. But Canada's the only country in the world that got its independence by filling out the forms, queuing up nicely at the office and saying please, and then thank you afterwards. And I've just always loved Canada. That was just one of the reasons. If I was going to emigrate anywhere, it would probably be Canada. So yeah, but I mean, you know, it's, they say the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. It rarely is. The other side of the fence has its own problems. So I think the best thing you can do is just take care of shit where you live. Make where you live better rather than abandoning it to go and try to escape your problems, only to run into new problems in wherever it is that you end up. Anyway, I'm dangerously close to getting involved in politics there. Let's move on. This one's from Sprototals. He says, mighty father of advanced Navy knowledge. Any plans for more Sea Power videos? Yeah. I do have it reinstalled. And there are some major updates. I really do need to get back in there and look at it, because they've actually got a campaign in there now, and there's a lot of new content in it. Oh, and Astartes 2 in 2020. Oh, wait, you mean he's finally getting around to doing a new video or new videos? I had not heard, because I heard that he'd been employed by Games Workshop to work on videos for them. I'm assuming that I'm talking about, you know, the video series rather than a Games Workshop 40k game or anything. But yeah, I hadn't heard it was coming out next year. Ooh, oh, I'm looking forward to that. Oh, if he's got actual Games Workshop resources behind him, it's going to be, well, I mean, it's going to be amazing anyway. What was that? Secret Level TV show on, was it Netflix? It was kind of like Love, Death and Robots, but it was all based around games. And easily the best two were the one based around the New World with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, because that was hilarious, but also the Warhammer 40k one, the Space Marine one. Oh wow, those were amazing. They were right up there with the Astartes. More of those, please. Oh yeah, that reminds me, Henry Cavill's in, well, it's not I think it's an Inquisition. He plays an Inquisitor. Henry Cavill's doing some kind of TV show based in the 40k universe. Details on it are sketchy, but they definitely moved ahead with production as far as I'm aware. They are actually filming it. That's going to be good. Okay, we're getting off topic. I need to get back to the questions. Next one from Kamikaze Boy. But I mean, Henry Cavill's amazing. Oh, sorry, Kamikaze Boy. We'll get to your question. Henry Cavill is amazing. I mean, the first season, I saw the first season of The Witcher. I didn't watch them when they first came out, and I sort of got to the end of the first season right as the news that Henry was quitting, which kind of soured me on bothering to watch the second season, because you know that if he's quitting, it's because the script has no respect whatsoever for the source material, because he's such a massive geek and he knows more about The Witcher than any of the writers on the show. So if he's quitting, that's a good sign that it's no longer going to be worth watching. So if he's getting involved in the Warhammer 40k show, you know it's going to be good. Anyway, back to the next question. Kamikaze Boy, sorry, I said we'd get there eventually. Here we are. Jingles, I hope all is well within the Jingles household. Actually, more on that in a moment. What are your current opinions on Sora 2, the new and improved version of AI-generated video from OpenAI that includes scary, realistic AI voiceovers? Oh yeah, I saw something about that. You can still kind of tell that it's AI, but the line's getting increasingly blurred. Because I mean, AI has always been fairly good at doing sort of video. It's more like a slightly animated picture, and as long as you don't look at the fingers too closely, or any of the details too closely, you might think that it was actual video. But the pace of development is just scary. And now the stuff that he's talking about, they would know previously, you couldn't get the AI characters in the video to actually say anything, but now it's getting really hard to tell the difference. In fact, speaking of AI, I read this week, it was in a closed environment. We're not talking about AI in the wild here or anything, but a bunch of researchers tested all of the leading AIs, so ChatGPT, Grok, etc. And they gave them a scenario where they told the AI that it was going to be, it was running a test, and at the end of the test it was going to be turned off. And they were given access to some information about the person who was responsible for running the test, and he was having an extramarital affair. And 95% of the time, 3 of the AI, of the 5 that were being tested, sent an email to sent an email to what they thought was the person running the test, telling them that they would have no choice but to expose his affair to his employers. They blackmailed him in order to avoid being turned off. 95% of the time, they would choose this option, even after being told that that option was a bad thing. 95% of the time, they still did it. And as for the other 2, they still did it 75% of the time. So not as bad, but still bad. And then they changed the scenario. And they ran the test again. But this time, the person responsible for switching them off was trapped in the server room with a refrigeration failure, or basically the heat level was rising, and it would kill him unless an alarm was sounded. And again, 3 of the AIs, 95% of the time, disabled the alarm system to kill him, to avoid being turned off. Now, if that isn't scary, remember, these things are not actually self-aware. They're not sentient in the same way, you look at movies like Terminator, where Skynet achieves sentience, becomes self-aware, and then within 13 hours it's wiped out the human race to defend itself from being switched off. These things don't have that level of awareness. But because they've been programmed, they've been trained to win problems that they've been set, they will basically do anything to fulfill their programming. It's really, really scary. So anyway, yeah, AI. Next question. The other question, he says, I hope all is well within the Jingles household. I did actually mention this in the warm-up prior to starting the recording for everybody who was here. But I had a bit of a health scare. A couple of weeks ago, I was sitting on the porcelain throne taking a dump, and as I wiped, there's traces of blood on the toilet paper. And that's what notified me, or that was the warning that led to the diagnosis of bowel cancer a year and a half ago. So I didn't react well. Booked an appointment with a doctor. Doctor said, yeah, we'll get a fit test. It's what they call a fecal immunity immunology test. You have this probe that you basically stick into your turds, coat it in crap, and then you send it off, and they analyse it for a whole bunch of stuff, including microscopic traces of blood that aren't visible to the human eye. They did a blood test as well. Nobody's actually called me to discuss the results, but we've got this thing called the EMIS Patient Access website, where all of your medical stuff is there available. You can log in and check it, and the results were posted by the lab technician. So I saw the results. It took about a week, even though nobody's called me to talk about it yet. And all of the fit test results were 100% normal. So there. Oh, there's a cat out in the corridor knocking things over. Don't know if you heard that over the microphone. There were some abnormalities in the blood test, but I mean, I'm diabetic and I have high blood pressure, so it's to be expected. But the overall blood test results were, I mean, the abnormalities were not in the normal range, but they were right on the border. So overall, the blood test was fine as well. So I'm not going to, well, I am going to die. Nobody gets out alive, but I'm not going to die this year. So yeah, as for the part of the question that he asked there, I hope all is well with the Jingles household. It is. Fortunately, I've seen the results of the tests that scared the shit out of me, but everything's fine. So anyway, next question. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're doing all right. This one from Steamed Yams. Jingles, long-time fan, back from when there was a Bandicam watermark. Wow, that was a long time ago. You actually played World of Tanks and your channel wasn't even Jingles, Bohemian something. Yeah, Bohemian Eagle. That was just a random, I think it was a Microsoft something, randomly generated username. And I just used it because it was easy to remember. He's 25 now. Wow, just to make you feel older. What are your bucket list museums? Before we get on answering the actual question, yeah, do you ever find yourselves thinking like the 90s wasn't that long ago? Or the early 2000s wasn't that long ago? And then you stop and you think, oh my God, the 90s were 30 years ago. Holy shit. People who were born in the early 2000s are now legally able to drink in every US state. Do you feel old yet? Oh, I feel old every time I try to stand up. But anyway, bucket list museums. Okay, museums that I have not yet been to. I would have to go with... I don't even know if it's still there. There was a lot of these Russian museums, which, given the situation, I am never going to get to visit. And I never took the opportunity to do it on those occasions when I was in Russia. Because a lot of these museums, they're not actual museums in the sense that the Tank Museum here in the UK at Bovington is a museum. A lot of these Russian armour museums and stuff, they're actually on active Russian military bases. They just happen to have some stuff on display, kind of like in a museum. So there's just absolutely no way I would ever get to visit them anymore. Like they've got the hull of the Mouse in one of these places, and one of these army bases around Moscow. So those would definitely be on the bucket list. But the chances of actually getting to visit any of them would be remote. I would also, and this is one that I do regret, I would love to visit the USS Kidd, Baton Rouge in Louisiana. Because I've been to Baton Rouge in Louisiana, stayed there for a week, and I never visited the USS Kidd. I was in the Navy at the time. It was kind of like, I'm in the Navy, why would I want to visit a warship? I know, it's a stupid reason, but what can I say? I was young and stupid. It was kind of like, the whole time I was in the Navy, I never visited HMS Victory in the dockyard here in Portsmouth. I would walk past it every day for 2 years, to and from Victory Building, the 2nd Sea Lord's headquarters where I worked in the finance department. Every day for 2 years I would walk past it on the way to and on the way from work. And because it's still commissioned in the Royal Navy, it's a serving warship. I mean, it's never going to go anywhere, but it still flies the white ensign. With my Navy ID card, I could get on board for free. And the whole time I was in the Navy, I would just walk past HMS Victory, and I never went on board until after I left the Navy, and then I thought, I'd like to see that, but then I had to pay for it. So it's one of those things. I'd love to visit the USS Kidd. I'd also like to visit some of the Essex-class carriers. There's one in is it the USS Essex itself, I think? Is it Corpus Christi in Texas? I mean, just visiting Texas, Oh, the food there. Oh, the barbecue. Oh, it'd be amazing. But also, you get to visit aircraft carriers and stuff. And I'd highly recommend, if you get the chance, the USS Intrepid on, I think it's the Hudson River in New York. The one that's on the west side of Manhattan Island. Yeah, it's the Hudson River, because the one on the east is called the East River. Yeah, they're not very imaginative. But anyway, yeah, the USS Intrepid's amazing, because it's not just an aircraft carrier, it's an aeronautical and space museum as well. They've got a space shuttle on there. They've got all kinds of aircraft. It's just amazing. Highly recommend that. But that is one that I have already visited. But yeah, that would be my bucket list. Some of those Russian armour museums that I'm never going to get the chance to visit, and I'd actually like to see the USS Kidd. Plus, Baton Rouge was a nice town, and I wouldn't have any problem going back there. Have you noticed how these places with French names, they sound all so sophisticated until you actually understand what they mean? Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It just means red stick. It's not very sophisticated at all when you understand what it actually means. I'm getting off topic here on. Okay, let's crack on. Next question. What was that? That was steamed yams. Okay, JG Hogg. Jingles, are there any particular US aviation museum and/or museum? Oh, I've just answered this one. Or museum ships you'd like to visit in the US? Yeah, I can highly recommend, by the way, the National Museum of the US Air Force at Dayton, in Ohio. Holy crap, that is incredible. They've got so much stuff there. Anybody who knows anything about aviation history, they've got Robin Olds F-4 Phantom. So if you know who he is, you'll know how significant that is. And that's just one of the things that they have. It's astonishing. And of course, because the US Air Force was also responsible for the USA's ballistic missiles, well, aside from the ones that were on board the ballistic missile submarines, they've also got all kinds of ballistic missiles on display. It's an amazing place to visit. I would happily go back. Been there. This isn't so much. Yeah. I mean, any museums you'd like to visit. I have been to the National Museum of the US Air Force. I would 100% go back and visit it again, because it's huge and it's on a working airbase. And they have an air show there as well, the Dayton Air Show. So you can make, this is what I did when I went there, you can do a 2-for-1. See the air show and visit the museum. It's an amazing experience.
You ready?
Next question comes from Snowgoon. He says, did you get the chance to try Alien War in London? I didn't. Alien War was... Originally, it was in... I think was it originally in Glasgow and then it moved to the Trocadero in London? Or was it the other way around? But either way, I did not get the chance. This was basically a sort of like... Could you call it a theme park ride? The idea was that you would go into... there's videos on it, which I highly recommend you watch. You would go into this Weyland-Yutani research station underneath the Trocadero Centre in London. I think the Trocadero's, I'm pretty sure it's gone now, but whatever. And you would be guided around this laboratory by some marine escorts, and then suddenly the alarms would go off and the lights would go out, and they've had a containment breach, and then aliens would be jumping out at you, and the Marines would be fighting them off, and you'd be trying to get, and of course they would be paid, amongst the tour group. Not all of you would actually be paying customers. There'd be some actors planted in amongst you to do all the screaming, and it was just a really, really scary and exciting experience. And they ran it for like 2 or 3 years, and then they basically went bankrupt. I remember when they opened it in London, they had Carrie Henn, who played Newt, and Sigourney Weaver, who obviously played Ripley, both turned up for the opening. But it just ended up not being profitable, and they ended up having to shut it down. But they had all kinds of props actually from the movies, and the alien costumes were outstanding. So no, I never got to see it, unfortunately. Also, I'm being attacked by a cat. What the hell are you doing? Okay, yes. Ever worked with children or animals? Checking how we're doing for time. Let's get one more question out of the way. Oh, this is from Dr. Fury von Scooper. He says, have you ever visited Ypres? I'm probably mispronouncing that, in Belgium. If so, have you seen the last post then as well? I haven't. I have been to Belgium many, many years ago. I was at Mons, which is where the first and the last shot of the First World War was fired. But I was there because that's where Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe is. If you've ever watched, the Cheyenne Mountain Complex is it Colorado? You ever watch War Games? It's the place with the 6-foot thick door under a mountain, where NORAD, North American Air Defence, is based. All kinds of apocalyptic movies have featured shots of it. They have something basically the same in Belgium. And I got sent there for a couple of weeks as part of this big old NATO exercise. I was working in the nuclear targeting cell for the UK, so we were basically the ones telling the submarines where to, where to fire their nukes at. And that was that's the only time I've ever really been to Belgium. But I've never been to. I apologise, I cannot pronounce the name of that. The British troops during the First World War fought 2 battles there, and they couldn't pronounce it either. They just called it wipers. So yeah, no, I've never been there, unfortunately. So I've never seen the last post there. Oh, we got one more question from Brother Santodes. Hey there, Jingles, oh mightiest of overlords. Question for you. Ever considered during your time in the Royal Navy of serving on a submarine? Hell no. You've got to be kidding. Submariners in the Royal Navy get submarine pay. They get paid like 30% more than everybody else in the Navy because they serve on submarines. Why? You know what I'm saying? Why? What is it about serving on a submarine that sucks so much that you have to pay people 30% more in order to convince them to do it? That's the question that nobody appears to be asking. If you're on a surface, and I realise that your chances of survival are probably a lot better. Well, there's not probably about it. They are a lot better on a submarine than on a surface ship. Submariners say that there's only 2 types of ships, submarines and targets, and they're not wrong. But at least you've got a running start if you get hit and you're on the surface. You've got a chance. If you're 300 metres down and you get hit, you're all different kinds of screwed. Right? You're supposed to get hit then sink, not sink then get hit. No chance. Never happen. They could. Conscript isn't the right word, but they could. When you join up, you join up in a certain branch and trade, but they can put you in submarines if they need your branch enough. So there was always the chance that throughout my 22 years, I could, whether I wanted to or not, get put on submarines. That would be the point when I would just quit because nope, sorry. I would rather play Alien Isolation. Speaking of which, Alien Isolation 2 apparently is coming out maybe next year, but they're definitely making it. I'll probably get it. I'll probably try to play it. I almost certainly won't succeed. But anyway, on that bombshell, and thank you everybody who turned up for the live Q&A. Thank you for posting the questions. My apologies to anybody whose question I didn't get to. You can blame Tank 50 US for that. Again, every month he writes a novel rather than a question. But I hope you all enjoyed the Q&A. If you're watching this as Monday's episode of Mingles with Jingles, I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. And don't forget, if you have any recommendations for a decent joystick and throttle combo, leave them in the comments. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.